Hello, beautiful beings. How are you today? Today, the topic that we're going to talk about is how to pick tarot and oracle cards that are right for you. But before I get into that topic, of course, I have to pick an oracle card for you. Today's oracle deck that we're using is a Magic and You Oracle. Here's the cover. Alright, so I'm going to start mixing my cards right now. While I do this, please breathe in and breathe out. Connect to these cards. Breathe in and breathe out. We're gonna ask Spirit for a message today for you and also me. Alright, we're gonna split this deck in half like I usually do. Perfect. And this is your card. Make peace with your past. Let's see. The rower sitting in her boat can only see from where she has come as she surges forward. When this card is present, it is time to gain perspective and an understanding of a role your past has played in the direction you are heading today. Are you able to appreciate the beauty of where you have come from and let that guide into your future? Or are you focused on problems, mistakes, and disappointments and letting them forge your direction? As you strike out the pursuit of more, this card reminds you to contemplate that more will never be meaningful and fulfilling until you truly embrace the unconditionally appreciate where you have come from. It is all purifying pain and gentle glory. This card is a healing card. It's time to make peace with your past. And that's your oracle of the day. I wish you well on your journey as usual. And yeah, let's get into the topic. So like I said, this video is going to be an explanation on how to pick a tarot and oracle deck that is right for you. There are so many decks out there. It can be confusing, it can be overwhelming, and hopefully this video can help make that choice easier. So the first question you want to ask yourself when you look at a deck, do you have a personal and intuitive connection with it? Meaning, if you're looking at all the decks in the store, is there a deck that's drawing your eyes to it? Is it the color? Is it the name? Those can be signs of maybe that deck is right for you. There are times, of course, that you're gonna make a mistake when purchasing a tarot or oracle card deck. I can give you an example of that. I have my decks here so I can pick and choose and show you examples. The most popular deck I think is out there because a lot of people talk about it is the Wild Unknown Tarot. This deck, everybody talks about this deck. So my first time buying a deck, I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy the one that everybody's talking about. So I went ahead and purchased it. This is my first deck. This is my least personal deck that I've ever been connected to. I'm not intuitively maybe, but I'm not connected to this deck. I don't pick up this deck at all. I just have it sitting on my shelf. So you're gonna be making mistakes like this for the first time because of course you're not gonna know, but that's okay. You're gonna make mistakes when purchasing a deck, and that's okay. It's a learning curve. Once you buy that first deck, you figure out which other decks you like and all that kind of jazz. The second thing that you can help to narrow down which deck that you want to use is if the imagery is either too much or too little. I can give you an example of 2 cards. So as an example of imagery is too much or too little for you, this can be considered too little. This would not be a good deck, I think, personally, for a beginner. This is the Golden Thread Tarot card. And then this would be considered maybe not too much. I don't ever think it's too much, but maybe it's too much to you personally, because a lot of people who do tarot cards, sometimes they don't like to have too much imagery because intuitively they are listen to what it means rather than relying too much on the imagery. So it really depends on what you would like. Of course, this card is beautiful, but it might not be the right card for a beginner. And this deck is the Light Seers Tarot deck. Is one of my favorites. My best friend brought me this one. In connection of if the imagery is too much or too little, that also relates on your experience level. You want to buy a tarot deck that maybe has a thicker guidebook because you're a beginner and you need more of an explanation of each card. I can give you an example of that. Or you probably don't need a thicker guidebook, or you probably don't need a guide at all. So this is a guidebook right here. See how thick it is? This is really, really detailed for each card. Really, really detailed for each card. This is the Wild Unknown Tarot deck. And then I have Tarot of Haunted House. This is one of my other favorite decks. So something like this doesn't come in too thick of a book. Even this is a little bit thick. Even this one is a little bit thicker than normally. Love this deck. This deck feels so nice. So yeah, it's always based, you always want to pick a tarot deck that's based on your experience level. A beginner, you want to go for more imagery, a thicker guidebook. For a more experienced tarot reading or oracle deck reading, you probably don't need a guidebook. Of course, it's always handy. I love guidebook and I love imagery, so I'm not a beginner to tarot or oracle reading, but I just love those things. It's not really per se of experience level, but as a beginner, you should want to lean for more imagery and a thicker guidebook, so you can get a hang over the imagery. So when you go into something less complex, like the Golden Thread Tarot, it will be so much easier. The Golden Thread Tarot, which is this one, the black and gold one, was my second deck, and again, at that time I was a beginner. That is not a beginner deck. You do not want that. Or maybe you do. It also has an app. There is no guidebook to this physically, but they do have an app that will tell you what the card means. So the next question you want to ask yourself, do you want traditional or more modern tarot? What I mean by that, all these tarot cards are based on the Rider-Waite Tarot, and I can give you the closest example, which is the original tarot. I never bought the actual Rider-Waite, but this is Rider-Waite. It's just that the color is so much more beautiful. And this is what all the other tarot cards are based on. So do you want more traditional, which is this, right? Or do you want to go more modern, which is like if you're into horror movies, you probably want to go for the Haunted House Tarot deck. Or if you're into more colors and imagery, you want to go for the Light Seers Tarot deck. Or if you're feeling really fancy and you love, this is the most expensive deck I own. If you love a Renaissance art, you might want to go for a Renaissance theme deck. Same thing with oracle cards. I would say I find that a lot of oracle cards are more in depth with the imagery. This is the Lantern Oracle. I love this deck so much. This is also one of my favorite oracle decks. For something like, I have a herbal healing deck. This is huge. This comes with a big guidebook. The imagery is not as detailed, but the guidebook is detailed. Look at this guidebook. Thick, or some oracle decks is a little less detailed, like this one. So the next question you want to ask is if you truly need a guidebook. For a beginner, I would recommend a guidebook. And a person who's an expert, you don't really need a guidebook. Oracle decks are always going to have guidebooks, I think. I've never ran across an Oracle deck that doesn't have a guidebook. And that's because each Oracle deck has a meaning and is a different, what do you say, vibe? Where like each tarot deck kind of has the same meaning. So you want one that comes with the book, or you want one that doesn't come with the book? That is an important question to ask. And another way to know when a tarot deck or Oracle deck is not for you. If it doesn't have a guidebook and you want a guidebook, then you shouldn't get that deck. Another question to ask is if the size of the deck too small or too big for you. I can give you a prime example of Oracle decks love to come in different sizes. So right here, I have Species by Thousands Oracle deck. Look how tiny this deck is compared to my hand. And then I have the Lantern Oracle deck, which is like twice its size. You see how big it is? It's twice its size. And then we have like pocket size. This is considered pocket size too, but I think this one is even smaller than pocket size. So this is Beyond Lumrania Oracle deck. So this is what's usually considered pocket size, and this is the Oracle deck that I had mentioned, the Species by Thousand. You can see the size. So yeah, so you want to consider when buying a tarot or Oracle deck, you would want to figure out which size you like. That is something that unfortunately usually happens after you buy the tarot Oracle deck, but you don't know. You gotta test these things out. So you're gonna end up with a few decks. And I always say that if you're not gonna use it, maybe pass them along to a friend. Another question you wanna ask yourself when buying a tarot or oracle deck is, what mood are you going for? So are you going for the horror mood and buy the haunted house tarot deck? Or you're going for a more eccentric mood and want to buy the Light Seers deck? Are you in love with animals? Maybe you want to buy the Wild Unknown tarot deck. Those are the questions that you want to ask of the kind of vibes you want. Happy, sad. You want to look for happy, you look for more colors. Sad, maybe dark colors. A good example I can use for that, because I love me some sad, is I think the Magic and You is kind of like dark, which is the oracle deck that I had pulled for this video. Another thing that's really, really important, and unfortunately you won't figure out until after you buy it, is if the quality, does the quality matter? So if you don't really care for quality, then maybe you wouldn't maybe research more. But I'm saying if quality really matters to you, I would recommend going on YouTube and type in your tarot or the oracle deck that you want to buy and see if other people have reviewed it to find out the quality of the deck. So a good example between qualities is that my haunted house tarot deck is not really good quality, because after a lot of, I don't even use this like too often, but after where the ridges start lifting up and it starts looking, a lot more used. I haven't used this deck a lot, so it shouldn't be showing signs of like use, but it's definitely starting to. It's not that bad. I'm just complaining. I like my card perfect. But yeah, so that's gonna happen, and depending on what you want to last longer, you want to get like, do you like a thicker card stock? Do you like a softer card stock? Do you like it matte? Do you like it shiny? These are the questions that you want to ask yourself when purchasing a new deck. Do you like it matte? This one's textured. Do you like it textured? Do you like it matte? Or do you like it shiny? This is not high shine, but this is a little bit shiny. You see it? So those are the questions you want to ask as well. I personally love to go for the matte cards. That's because I like it. There's no really real reason why. So those are all the questions you want to ask when purchasing a new tarot or oracle deck card. So let's review. You want to either ask, is this personally and intuitively connecting to me? The second question is the imagery of the deck too much or too little? The third question to ask is to question your experience level. That would determine which decks that you want to use. So if you're a beginner, you would probably want more imagery and a thicker guidebook, or just a guidebook in general. If you're more experienced, you can leave out the imagery because you already know intuitively what the cards mean, and you don't need a guidebook because, again, you intuitively know what the cards mean. The fourth question you want to ask if you want a traditional style tarot deck or a modern tarot deck. That also goes for Oracle. But the fifth question to ask is if you actually want a guidebook. The sixth question you want to ask is if the quality matters. If the quality matters, I would recommend to go on YouTube and see if somebody has already reviewed the deck that you want. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you guys for watching my video. I hope this video helped a lot. I'm sending you a lot of light and love as always. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. And bye!